Welcome back. Giants fans in the house celebrating their 4th place secure in the European LCS, and we're about to jump into our next match. Giants very, very happy after a fantastic performance. Struggled a little bit early, bounced back in the late game. Anyways, let's get back on topic to Fisher. We're about to see Origen take to the Rift against Gambit Gaming. Origen will be on the blue side. Let's take a look at their roster once more. It is Soaz, amazing FLICKR, Niels, the amazing Mythy, and of course Leduc as the coach. Let's quickly take a look at the red side. It is Gambit in their home colors. They will of course be sporting Cabashard, Diamond, Betsy, Forgiven, Gosu Pepper, and the recently confirmed Sean's as their coach. Both of these teams have interesting early games. Let's put it that way. I think let's start with Origen on the blue side. I feel they're a little slower than their opposite numbers. They tend to not do a whole lot in the first 10 minutes, but then they accelerate quite rapidly as they get out of the laning phase.
Yeah, Origen definitely not a team playing around the laning phase itself. It's more about the mid-game, roaming around and using these numbers advantages in their favor. That's what they like to use. I mean, we can see the difference here between 10 and 20 minutes for Origen. Massive difference here in kills for them. And Gambit is more focused on that laning phase itself, and that's why they might be able to pull ahead of Origen.
Well, might be able to. Gambit's one of the teams that's at sort of the upper end of the bottom 7 teams we keep talking about, and Origen is not as good as the top 2, but they're clearly better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And somebody that I think I keep looking at is Mythy. Last week he was targeted by Fnatic. 3 bans directly at him. I don't necessarily think it hurt him too much because I feel the team ended up losing that game, but as you can see, most assists in EU LCS Summer, it helps when the rest of Origen are getting so many kills.
Well, he is a fantastic support, and he's very vocal on the team and how they play around early game. We've seen one of the ways of shutting down Origen is target Mythy, but look what he's doing here against Elements. He's the guy starting the fights. He's always been a playmaker. I remember when he came into the LCS in Season 3, first game he played, he jumped in, he flashed in, he made big plays. He's not afraid of doing it, and it's so important for Origen when they don't get that lead in the laning phase. They can then rely on Mythy to start the fights in the mid game and use that to snowball.
And of course, all of Origen play that aggressive style, much like Gambit, in fact. Gambit, whether they're winning or losing, they tend to be very, very in your face. Last week they went 1-1. I think I want to talk about some of their objective focus. You know, they did secure their first tower in their last 4 games where there was no lane swaps.
And that's a big change.
Very big change. They're also good in Barons. Now, this is the most recent weeks 3 and 4, because in weeks 1 and 2, it was nearly completely the opposite. Gave up 8 Barons in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, very big difference. Gambit were clearly trying to find the style. Again, we keep talking about how they had some problems, couldn't really practice coming in. Sean's joined for week 2 as well. But it's very clear how they changed up the style here for themselves. It's a lot about lane dominance suddenly again, because you have Forgiven, you have Cabashard, great laners. Betsy gets more in the support role, and he should just sit there in the mid lane and hold his own. There's still some things we want to see get better for them, like Diamond and Eddie together, the synergy. We don't really see them roam a lot together. It's more about Diamond making a play on the top side for Cabashard, Eddie then trying to make a play on the bottom side for Forgiven. And it does mean they tend to be caught out. They are placing a lot of wards though. I mean, Gambit is the team who places the most wards in the EU LCS. How effective they are, that's what we have to follow in this game here. Can they place them around the objectives they want to use? Or do they just place them to place them?
Yeah, you can see second highest among supports for Eddie in terms of placing wards. Diamond, highest. Interestingly, who's very close to the top of the tables is Rocket as well, who also places a significant number of wards. And even more interesting, both of these teams are at the bottom of the table, right? So, you know, both of them struggling a little bit, not using the resources as effectively. We're expecting a lot of aggression. We're expecting a lot of in-your-face fights between both Origen and Gambit. It is somewhat their style. What are we expecting from picks and bans? Where is the priority here? Because there's a lot of things that both of these guys like to do. Cabashard likes to carry, Soaz has been favoring that Smite TP Fizz top.
So looking at how you ban against Gambit, they have this problem. We haven't seen a Kalista pick for them. And it's something Nils loves to play. It's something we expect him to pick if it's open. So it might force Gambit into to ban it. And then suddenly what Origen has done before is they focus bans on, let's say, the top lane, and then first pick a top laner for Soaz. And they try and give him an advantage, give him a good lane. And that's a strategy you can use against Gambit now, where Cabashard is this big carry here. We know Forgiven prefers Corki, Lucian, these kind of champions. So I feel like there are some AD carry picks where Origen might be able to get an advantage and therefore save some bans and use them directly at someone like Cabashard.
And the other side of the coin, you could also look at Diamond Procs. When he's not had his hands on the likes of Gragas or Rek'Sai, his Nidalee has been quite underwhelming, in my opinion. Evelyn not really showing up, whereas we've seen Amazing running the Nunu to slightly better effect. So if they prioritize some of the jungle picks, maybe get Diamond onto a champion that he's not had a top-tier performance on in summer.
That might be a tactic for them.
Not expecting it.
Not expecting that. I think Diamond has enough picks he can use. It's more about what kind of carries is Gambit playing around, and can they dominate their laning phase? Because if you're Origen, the only situation where you have had problems is if you fall behind in the laning phase. That's where you struggled. Because if you just have a standard laning phase, get to the mid game, you tend to outplay the other team, start racking up a lot of kills in the mid game. We looked at it earlier, and suddenly the game just snowballs completely. Yeah. However, if you look at what Gambit likes to do, again, it's 2v2 lane for Forgiven, strong 2v2 lanes, it's Capuchon one-on-one lanes that can carry. So why not target those more so than trying to say, oh, Diamond, you Nidalee only picked up like 3-4 assists, so we find giving it to you? Because Nidalee has enough early pressure for Diamond to be useful in that sense.
In theory, in practice, hasn't always paid off to be the case. We are jumping into picks and bans. Let's find out where the teams do prioritize. The Fizz banned away by Origen this time around. No real surprise there.
Yeah, first ban straight towards Capuchon in that top lane. Question is, do you want to ban a jungler then for Origen, as you talked about, Trevor, and then maybe first pick one for Amazing, try and put him in a favorable situation? No, instead. Another topic we just talked about was these AD carries. Sivir, Yasuo ban.
So Yasuo is an interesting one. Maybe they know something from squims that we do not.
Yeah, clearly.
Because this has confused both of us.
But this is again one of the things you can do against Gambit, because there are less of the top picks you have to always ban away that we normally see. With the likes of Kalista out of the picture, you can start going for target bans, and you can, I mean, very clearly go for a, I guess more a predicted pick from them. Shen also banned away. So 3, I would assume this is going to be 3 top lane bans versus Capuchon. Maybe the Yasuo is going to be flex also for Betsy in the mid lane. But Origen very heavily focusing straight towards Capuchon.
So Gambit have 1 ban remaining. Kalista is still up and available. Jungler's still up and available. And the support will be the final ban. So Mithy's not going to get his hands on Morgana. Morgana just suffered its 5th loss of the summer split. What do Origen prioritize as their first
So,
pick?
2 things here. First of all, Rek'Sai Gragas is open. When both of them are open, you can go for a Kalista pick if you want to, but you don't really have to against Gambit unless Forgiven is now playing it. At the same time, you also have to worry about the fact that Gambit has flex picked the Gragas to top lane. They have gone Gragas Rek'Sai first rotation. But I honestly feel like Alistar could be a pickup here for Origen, just because if Gambit just want to run the Rek'Sai jungle or Gragas jungle, and they're not going to take away the Kalista anyway, you will get a tier 1 jungler, you will get Kalista as an AD carry, and you also lock in what many consider the best support available at the moment. We should assume Eddie wants to pick it if it goes through here. So Origen has a lot of things they need to think about here. And also, do we want to take the chance of giving Gambit their flex pick? Or if they lock this one in, I mean, then I guess we are talking the same things as Origen are right now.
So what did Gambit reply? You've looked at the Alistar. They now need to lock in 2 picks for themselves. We've not seen Forgiven on Kalista, but we have seen him play champions he's never played before.
Yes.
The Sivir the Corki. He is a player we expect could learn champion. Has he? We're about to find out.
Impossible to predict.
No,
That's obviously what Origen is saying is, we don't expect you to play that champion, so we don't worry about it.
Bluff.
Question is, again, Gambit, do they want to take the 2 tier 1 junglers, put Capuchon on a Gragas top lane? It's not really a surprise anymore, because we have seen it a few times. Seems not. And this is something they did last week as well. Very heavy focus on poke and ignoring what is considered the power picks in the current meta. Nidalee jungle, Corki AD carry is something we have seen more and more. And I think that's a fine pick for Forgiven. The problem is still, Nils is going to get that Kalista, so you're not going to 2v2 lane it. You're going to have to swap away from it. And then suddenly you don't get that lane dominance that Gambit likes to use. They've only been in lanes of once, entire EU LCS. And they fell really far behind in that game.
Yeah, Origen, on the other hand, 5 lane swaps out of their respective 8 games. So we'll see if Origen want to look for that again. The last time Diamond did play the Nidalee, and the reason I'm fairly critical of it, despite the game being a win, His Nidalee ended up 0, 2, and 3. So we need to see whether or not he can help out the solo laners to help carry again.
That was one of the games, though, where Diamond didn't need to gank. He was putting all his attention on warding early on. We highlight the stat, how many wards he places. I think it's the most for junglers.
Highest on average per average game.
So that was his focus. It wasn't ganking. He didn't need to because his lanes were winning on its own. So we can't really blame him for not getting any kills because he put a lot of pressure on the map.
You're not 100% expecting Gambit's lanes to win as easily against Origen.
Not against the Kalista, not against, or with the Rek'Sai jungle as well to apply the pressure. It can very quickly snowball for Origen. Obviously the Alistar, not the strongest laner, so Gambit can go for a Bard. They've done it before, the double ranged, and then take that 2v2 lane. Try and battle it out with Origen. Not expecting a Mordekaiser.
No, not at the moment. So let's see if Gosu will be running that Bard. He's run Thresh and Bard twice, and a couple of mixed others. He actually ran the Taric into Kalista last time around. Yeah. And if my memory serves, that game was a win as well.
Against SK Gaming.
4 and 10. You can't hop away from Dazzle.
That is true. This is Gosu Pepper's counter to the Kalista. It also sets up a very easy Q for Forgiven in that lane. So it's like stun into the Kalista, bomb coming in from Forgiven, and you have a strong start to the trade. I want to see if Gambit then, I mean, to me it tells me they want to go for standard lanes. I want to see Capuchat then on some sort of carry.
7 out of 8 games in standard lanes. Gambit definitely want to go standard. But one thing they're also showing is almost a disregard for the current theoretical meta strength.
Completely.
And they're doing it over and over and over again. We'll see if it works out. They're currently 3 and 5 versus Origen, who are 6 and 2. 2 picks left to lock in. We've seen FLICKR really favoring the Vladimir in the mid lane. 4 games out of his last 8, and that is locked in once more.
So again, for him, he just wants something where he can try and go even in the laning phase. Because for Gambit right here, it's so much about that laning phase. You have to be able to get a lead early on. Otherwise, it's going to be so hard for you to play it out. Ari is a champion that is fantastic if she does get a kill early on and if she can start snowballing. But again, she's a champion relying on vision control, so you can catch people with charms. If you start falling behind, it's too predictable what you want to do, when you want to jump in, how you engage straight on Origen. There's going to be an Alistar, there's going to be a Lulu that's not going to be possible targets or going to try and stop you from doing anything. So Gambit really is going to rely so much on that early game. I wonder, Hecarim is open for Capuchat. Have seen it a few times. Can be fairly tricky though into a ranged matchup. Echo is also open if you place it in the top lane.
So 5 seconds left. We're waiting for a Capuchat champion. We assume Fizz, Yasuo, and Shen were targeted towards him. And Cabo's going to stick with his most played. 2 games on that Hecarim. 1 win, 1 loss. 8, 2, and 6 his overall stats. Going to have the poke of Nidalee and Corki to play with, and the CC of Ari and Taric to try and focus what is effectively a 2-threat comp here from Origen.
And we talk so much about how Gambit wants these standard lanes because they want to try and use the Taric. They want to see if they can get the Trinity Force rush on Capuchat. Origen is free to just lane swap. In this case here, Lulu requires a lot less gold to be effective compared to a Hecarim. Capuchat also tends to not be running the smite because he wants more early pressure in the game. You see,
which I know you like.
A lot more of that. I like it. I prefer it right now. After all the nerfs to Cinderhulk, I really like the fact you can rush the Trinity Force and have that mid-game impact. But Origen can lane swap here and try and dodge around the laning phase a little bit from Gambit's side. Depends on just how they want to play it again, yeah. I mean, we had the Alistar locked down. That was pretty fun to talk about, but at the same time, it showed the lack of Kalista from the side of Gambit. After
all the discussion about junglers, despite there being no focus on the bans, Gambit again showed their priority that Gragas to them is maybe more of a top laner. Capuchat's run it a couple times this split. Disregarding Rek'Sai entirely, which in my opinion, Diamond's had his most impressive game of the split. So here's your team comps on screen one more time. Let's see who's going to get the advantage and who's going to get ahead. Of course, for Origen, we've seen what Pekka can do late. We've seen what this Vladimir can do late. Assuming Gambit give them time, Pekka will be able to carry. But until then, it's going to be on Niels.
There's a lot more things for Origen to do in the late game compared to Gambit. It's about that early game. We keep mentioning how important it is. But this Nidalee as well for Diamond, it's because they like to play Corki. And they like to mix them together and just have that long-range poke once you come out of the laning phase. But it's always risky when you give away so many strong picks, you give so many comfort picks over to the other side, it means the way Gambit looks at the game clearly is we don't care who we're playing against. We trust in our own picks at the moment. We know how we want to play them, and we feel like we have certain counters ready for these OP picks, like the Taric into Kalista. It worked once for Eddie. I want to see if it works again.
Well, we'll find out if Lightning can strike the same location twice. Scientifically, I believe it can. We do have a very brief pause. There's a mouse issue on stage, which we're busy looking into. But we've got some fantastic numbers that Spellsy and the guys off air have been digging up for us. And to Fisher, you've mentioned it already. Gambit have played standard lanes in 7 out of the last 8 games. They average a gold lead at 10 minutes. They average a gold lead at 20 minutes. Arguably, it's small, 350 and 720. But then when Gambit are in a lane swap, they're down 2,500 gold at 10 minutes.
That one game, yeah.
And 4,000 gold at 20. I know I'm being a little overly harsh, it's one game. But Origen have lane swapped in 5 of their games. Now, we don't know, we can't really explain exactly who initiated it and why the lane swap occurred. But Origen are better in those scenarios, and we'll see if they want to try look for
it. Yeah, they played it more, and it fits more their style. Again, it's not about the first 10 minutes of the game for Origen. That's where they just sit and farm up. They wait until there's an opening to start roaming around, use Mithy. He's on the Alistar, fantastic roaming abilities for him. Join in with the Rek'Sai, and if you suddenly start moving in towards the mid lane, you can set up dives really effectively, go towards the top lane if Lulu can push in the Heck Rim as well, and suddenly you have openings for Origen. So if they do decide to swap to that top lane, and you take down that tower, you go down to the bottom lane and you try and push in that wave, because what always happens when you have Alistar is if you get the advantage in a lane, and you can start pushing it in against the enemy 2v2 lane, Alistar gets in his prime position where he can start tower diving. That's what he does so well. So once you have that situation, you just start calling down people and you set up these dives very effectively, and there's very low risk because Alistar doesn't really take any damage with his ulti from it. And that's one of the ways Origen likes to play with Miffy on it.
And we'll see if they can. To show just a quick update, I believe it's Betsy's mouse/computer that's being looked at the moment. And we'll keep you up to date as and when I hear more. But you were talking about the laning phase and talking about pushing those towers. Some of the other stats that we've also looked at is Gambit have secured the first tower in the game in 6 games. Origen have done the same in 5 of theirs. So we'll see whether or not that style of pushing for towers will equate to any sort of control in the match.
It is what Gambit really wants to do with their comp here. Again, it's very much about have the double Trinity Force spike, have an Italy grouping with a Ari and Corki as well, and you have a lot of poke coming in. You can also do this where you swap Forgiven to the mid lane. Once the laning phase is over, you put Betsy in the side lane, Cowpershot in the opposite side lane. You have a 1-3-1 setup. Safe wave clear from Forgiven in mid. Opens it up for Ghost of Paper to start roaming on this Taric here. And suddenly you open up the map. But again, it all comes down to how well can you play that early game. Can you get into a position where you can start creating picks and set up these sieges here with Forgiven? Or are you forced to just get into big 5-on-5 team fights where Vladimir becomes stronger and stronger, where Alistar really shines as well?
Well, it's good to see that Forgiven is in good spirits. Big smiles on camera. Goes through as well. We are in a pause, so players aren't allowed to communicate via headsets. And we'll be getting into this game quickly. We did see QA there on stage looking into that technical issue that we're resolving. And it's really fabulous to see Taric back into the game.
And it's going to be pink Taric. Just informing people. Apparently, Eddie...
He didn't do it last time.
We had that was the problem. That's a big problem. When you play really Taric, it's pink Taric.
Armor of the 5th age.
Else.
Armor of the 5th age. As Gambit are looking for their 4th win, if they can find it. Currently trying to fight their way out of the bottom. I want to step away from the match and the picks and bans, because something that Crapper brought up on PTL and something that we've been talking about coming into this week was how you do have these top 3 teams, and how we feel Origen is at the bottom of the top 3. But there's kind of an opinion that Gambit could be near the top of the bottom 7. Right. It has to be proven, of course. But you kind of feel like they could be there, and this could be a good game to test how close are they to Origen and the rest of the top teams.
This will really be a test for Gambit. And they still have... It feels like there's no massive problem. It's a lot of small problems for Gambit they need to fix. One of them can be certain champion picks or champions they don't play. I guess we could even put that as a fairly large problem in this case, but unless they have these counter picks that works for them, then you start looking at how we talk about the synergy between the jungle support, Diamond, and Ghost of Pepper here not always being there, how Betsy has been fairly inconsistent in the mid lane. He's had great games, and then he has games where he gets destroyed in laning phase, and it costs Gambit a lot. Like it's still very relying on Copper Shot being the main carry.
Yeah, and if Diamond can get him ahead as well.
If he can, yeah. And it's fairly predictable, obviously. I mean, we saw Origen here, 3 bans towards the top lane. Even one we haven't seen Copper Shot play. We should assume that's for top lane. And that's what you can do when there are these picks you don't have to worry about, and you know it's so much about Copper Shot. And that makes it difficult for Gambit when they play the top teams, or when they play the top teams.
Yeah, easy to shut down. So I did see that Betsy has reconnected to the server, guys. Hopefully, we'll be getting back into this game in a moment or two. The crowd is excited after that brief pause. We're loading up now. Origen doing battle with Gambit. The flags are lit up as we load up onto the Rift. And we do see Mithy has been soulbound with Niels. I want to have a look. Gosu, is he wearing that armor of the 5th age? He is, and he's looking fabulous.
And he's starting boots. This is something Ghost of Pepper did in the spring split in a few games. He wanted to basically be better at roaming. Doing the same thing here on Tarek, and also wants to make sure he can get in range for that stun onto Niels. We're just going to see his stats on the Kalista. Very impressive numbers, obviously, when it comes to KDA, 100% win rate as well for him.
Slacking in kill share.
Yeah.
Not good enough, buddy.
Keep it up, Niels.
Not good enough. Obviously making a small joke. We do see Gosu gonna invade. No deep wards just yet. It looks like we may be getting ourselves into the standard lanes for the moment, at least. Although Mithy and Niels are both back moving away. So let's see whether or not they can stick to this.
Very defensive start for Origen here. They're trying to show themselves at standard start locations, like down the bottom lane, near the crooks. You have your dual lane standing in case Gambit were invading in, placing a few wards to try and spot them. But as we mentioned in the pick and ban phase, nothing really stops Origen from just swapping to top lane. No smite for Kapajard. He's going to try and do a camp, as we normally see it at level 1. And then he's going to realize that both Mithy and Niels is going to show themselves top lane. So this should slow down Gambit a little bit, at least in the start, but we tend to see the 4v0 push. And when you're the ones starting the lane swap, you can often start on the weak side of the map with your jungler and top lane. That's what they're doing here with Amazing, something Origen likes to do, because Gambit would have to predict the swap and then invade into this red buff to stop him. Otherwise, you just pick it up for yourself and you move over and take your blue buff, and then you are already on the top side of the map, ready to 4v0, because there's of course no freeze when you take that camp at level 1 from Origen's side.
So everybody is involved in the jungle until Niels and Mithy have now shown. They secured Gromp. Gambit are aware they're now in a lane swap scenario for only the 2nd time this split. And let's see how well they handle themselves. We did see FLICKR. He also started boots into Betsy's Ahri in that mid lane. And FLICKR's not been required to carry as far as Origen are concerned. He's been able to rely on the rest of his team, but you can see with the utility from Soa's top, FLICKR will need to get himself into a good position for this game.
Whenever we go late game and we get to the big team fights, FLICKR really steps up. Yeah, always have great late game fights for himself. But he's also picking the scaling champions. I mean, Vladimir is not a champion you pick to destroy your laning phase. I mean, you are here to scale up. You're here to try and neutralize the Ahri and make it a bit of a farm lane in the early game. You obviously don't offer a lot of long-range safe wave clear. That is a problem for Origen. It's mainly going to be about Soas here, and he's going to be stuck in the side lane with his teleport to Origen. Can't really afford to fall behind
to Fishio
with what Gambit can do. And now this is a problem for Gambit. They're coming way too late to the top lane. Notice what Origen did here. They skipped the blue buff. This is what H2K has done before as well. They skipped the blue buff, so now the timer Gambit has in their head is like, okay, they're going to do red buff, they're going to do wolf, they're going to do blue, so we know around like 3:40 they're going to be around top side. But when you skip the buff, you're there 20 seconds earlier, and suddenly you zone them away.
Gambit, why are you here? We've seen this end so badly in the LCS. Gosu's low, he's being burned down, but he stays alive. He gets the inner turret shield.
Because of pink Tarek, by the way.
And it is purely those power pink pants that kept him alive. Origen, however, zoning Gambit away, and they were running out of minions. Forgiven's been left alone in the bottom lane.
Yeah, but Forgiven is pushing on his own, so Origen should be able to take down this tower, swap back down to that bot lane as well. This is the whole objective, and it's all about the fact they came up here earlier. Gambit were hoping to move 3 guys under the tower so Capuchat could farm and stop the 4v0. Tricked by the timer, by the lack of blue buff. Tower goes down, and once you're stuck there in that 3v4 between towers, there's not really anything you can do because you won't be able to fight. And if you start recalling, you will be in the bottom lane way too late as well. But Forgiven, realizing it's tough for him to get that tower, he has to swap back from Origen. Can they stop him from killing the bot lane? Then suddenly you have a tower advantage from Origen. Very smart start.
Well, we'll find out if Origen can continue that lead. Decided it wasn't the pink Taric, it was the boots. Because it allowed Gosu to run away quicker. So we'll keep an eye on Diamond. FLICKR should be able to have that Sanguine pool, and he does. Takes a big trade. And he's going to use the last of those biscuits. And we see the duo going up top. So they're not defending bottom, relying on Soaz's Glitter Lancers to do that for them.
Yeah, obviously, as we mentioned, still have pretty good wave clear from Soaz on his own, but also this is Origen once again saying, we know it's about Capuchat. So by us sending Kalista back to the top lane in a wave that's been bounced on the tower and is now pushing back down towards Origen, Kalista can zone away that Hecarim. And Capuchat is trying to find a lane where he can farm. He's going back to the bottom lane now to get that one-on-one, but it's really Origen putting full focus on Capuchat. Bans and the way to play the early game here.
And we do see, of course, Gambit responding. I'm going to send their duo up. No immediate pressure on those dragons. Origen have got great dragon control this split. They've actually secured 22, the second highest out of any EU team, and only given up 14. They're not going to have a lot of impetus on that right now as we see Diamond maybe looking for a dive. I guess if you combo with Dazzle, there is some damage, but good headbutt pulverize is very difficult under a tower.
We are also very early in the game. Diving 3v2 is going to be very risky for Gambit. Instead, they get the 2v2 lane they were looking for. Capuchat gets his one-on-one lane in the bottom lane, but Origen's already got that tower advantage, and this is the trade. Stun from Goes to Pepper. Bomb landing here from Forgiven, and that's how you want to trade very quickly. Short trades from him. Capuchat will take a lot of poke, but has pretty good all-in. Soaz will hit level 6 though, and then not really a whole lot is going to happen.
Capuchat does have Ignite, so if he does find Soaz running out of consumables, potential for the kill is there. Is burning through all of his drinks though, so Capuchat staying healthy.
They have a ward placed on the blue buff. They see Diamond on the top side. Instantly, we see Amazing come down to the bottom lane. Again, pressure on Capuchat. Stop his recall. He's low. He's alone. 2v1. Minions are coming in. Another recall stopped. Capuchat is really in trouble. No flash. Betsy's now coming down trying to help him, but that's going to cost Betsy now in his own lane. So suddenly, by Origen doing this, they keep pulling Gambit around.
Question is it enough? Yes, you are distracting Capuchat. Yes, you are denying some CS for Betsy. But Cabo is still even with Soaz. Betsy still slightly ahead of FLICKR. And we'll need to see whether or not Gambit can find the mid-game fights they need. I really like Origen the later this game goes. Once Niels gets his hands on a QSS, that Dazzle isn't as dazzling anymore. And we do see Gambit trying to push in this tower. So 61 CS for Forgiven, 55 for Niels on Kalista. Cabo was able to back pick up those Merc treads, and our sort of standard laning phase is playing out.
It is, but still that one tower of Origen. Another trade from Gambit. Don't even care about the Alistar because the damage has already been dealt. Just stunning and Q from Forgiven is already in the air. So not a whole lot maybe they can do to defend Niels in that case, or stop the auto attacks from Forgiven. But these trades will keep happening over and over and over.
At least helped even out that trade somewhat, I think, from Mickey's side. Sustain from Taric, sustain from Alistar. For Alistar in this situation, I feel. Just a lot of pressure being put onto Origen's lanes, with the exception of Capuchat a few minutes ago. Oh, good charm from Betsy.
Origen wants to find a chance to push out that top lane and swap Niels and Mythic back to that bottom lane here. Amazing was up there very quickly, showing himself, but they want to see if they can keep finding Capuchat, or at least start setting up where there's a tower, a tier 1 tower, because then you can start using jungle pressure to set up dives with that Alistar. Gambit though, I like this play here. Betsy, he's winning the mid lane against the Vladimir pick from Xpegas. This is what has happened a few times.
Amazing's gonna go down, Spirit Rush is up. not even going to get needed. Betsy lands the chomp, Diamond goes low. But first blood secured for Diamond Prox.
Ghosting.
He didn't want that. That's a flash forward. Hemoplay comes out. That might be enough to secure the kill. Sanguine Pool is going to keep Betsy in place. FLICKR is going for the kill. Not going to secure it this time round, but the Transfusion Hemoplay, that's an early kill onto FLICKR.
And a very important trade for Origen. First, it was a nice move from Gambit, winning the mid lane. Play around it here. You force FLICKR back to base. You come with the Nidalee, you start pushing in the tower. Amazing goes down, but then FLICKR managed to get a return kill. Stop the push, stop the tower from going down, because Origen is all about keeping your towers alive here. You want to keep them alive, you want to have a slow laning phase. If the towers start falling, Betsy is suddenly able to start roaming, and that's where things can get really, really ugly for Origen.
So, that kill being secured by FLICKR is the first time he's got a kill before 10 minutes, all split long. And we'll see if it's going to help Origen maintain some control. We've not seen the lanes resetting yet, despite Niels grabbing that cutlass. Feel that Soaz can handle Cabo Shot for the time being. He seems to be winning out in the trades. We haven't exactly seen how that played out, but we do see Cabo Shot's going to play himself out. Pick up most likely the home guards, and we can see some dragon stats that we highlighted earlier. The first team to get the 5 dragon buff was Origen. They do have significantly better dragon priority. Yeah.
Let's see what Origen does now. Mithy hits level 6. Gets interrupted at first. So notice what Origen are doing here. We mentioned this, how you want to have that Alistar where there's a tier 1 tower you can use to dive in and then potentially take a dragon after. As soon as Mithy hit level 6, instant recalls from Soaz, instant recalls from the bot lane. Now they swap it around. So they're going to be on the bottom side here. Cabochard just wants to push in the wave. So there's Forgiven top, and then you recall if you're Gambit, and you just swap around as well. You match it the 2v2, and you keep playing around the fact you have strong lanes. That's why we got to see Amazing shine now. Jumping with that Alistar. If you get the push on Gambit's bot lane, there's a dive for you. They can give you a kill. Cabochard.
That was going down.
Yeah,
Yep.
This is a problem for Origen, the fact they're losing mid lane. Because now suddenly Gambit opens up the map.
20 CS down for FLICKR. Keep in mind he does have a kill though. However, Gambit, even out the tower score, have the gold lead as we've crested 11 minutes. And now we need to see how Gambit handle themselves. Duo lane from Origen down bottom. Cabochard backed and is prancing his way up top. So he can't get tower dove by that Rek'Sai Alistar combo. And we'll see whether or not Forgiven and Gosu can fend off this pressure. So far, Forgiven's farming up well. Niels is opting to go Blade Leader and King first as opposed to Bloodthirster, like we saw earlier in the day.
Also be able to deal with Cabochard in the one-on-ones we're gonna see. Have a bit more self-sustain and peel against him in this case here. It's gonna cost him a little bit in terms of pure burst damage, where the flat AD is great for Kalista. But if you get to sit there and land multiple auto attacks, the Blade Leader and King is gonna even up in terms of damage for him.
Yeah, and we are in that time period now where Origen tend to be a lot more active. If we look at some of the numbers, they're sort of pre-10-minute stats. We're not mind-blowingly impressive, but 10 to 20, they tend to get, if memory serves, 47 kills for 17 deaths. Let's see if Origen want to do the same. They've got a Vladimir that wants to scale, but they've got a Kalista that's quite powerful.
And exactly the thing with the Vladimir who wants to scale is why Origen should have a very hard time taking over the mid game in this game here, because Betsy has opened up the mid lane. He can keep pushing it in. And then suddenly there's this roaming threat where when you sit in the lanes and you hear that the enemy mid lane has gone missing and you know he's in your jungle, you have to play passive. You have to walk back to your own tower. That stops you now from making aggressive plays. It makes it hard for Amazing to look for a gank, because there's always the risk of like 4 guys from Gambit showing up and counter gank. We need to see if Soaz can keep control of Cabochard as well. If he can keep pushing in top lane and force Cabochard to stay in lane and never have that home guard TP, that's a good way to keep him down. Soaz obviously will never have the same impact in terms of his teleports. Lulu home guard. I mean, it can work, but it's not as effective.
Come on.
Not the same
Teleport
punch.
Wild Growth. Have a giant Alistar in your face. So we do see now some strategic decisions need to be made by both of these squads. Basically even CS across the board. But it's Origen that is playing the rotations, and now they've got the pressure on the tower.
Yeah, just want to highlight the play they're making here. We just talked about how Betsy could push down FLICKR so instantly. They just send Source in the mid lane because the wave top was pushing anyway, and it gets so much damage with Betsy being back in base. Quick little rotation here, not even rotation, just walk straight from base, but quick little play from them. Clearly caught Gambit a little bit off guard, and now Source just going to return
Cheeky.
to the top lane as well to pick up the wave and keep defending the towers.
So Amazing's Prey Seeker finds its mark. Take a look at Cabochard. How much damage did he get on that top turret? I didn't see the minion wave really hit the tower. Amazing's going to get that Scuttle Crab. A lot of damage put onto Soaz's top tower. A fair amount of time out of the lane. And as we talked about, Dragon Control. 6 games out of 8.
Can Cabochard recall in time to get that home guard? Because Gambit, they want to fight, and they're going in.
Teleports come in from Soaz. That was close. Diamond Prox almost connects with a Javelin toss, but number 7 of 9. First Dragon secured by Origen. FLICKR is going to Sanguine Pool and flash defensively.
They're down on the bottom side though, so look what Gambit is doing here. They're going straight for the mid lane, already pushed out the wave. Betsy, that's why he was slightly delayed, and he had no ulti for the fight either. Gambit want to see if they get some damage on the mid tower. At the moment, only Mithy is here to defend. Amazing joining in, but very few minions for Gambit.
So, going to take away a third of the hit points in the mid inner turret. We do see that Gosu and Forgiven are pushing bottom. This tower took all of that beating in the opening few minutes, but is still standing. Here comes the support from Soaz. He's used his teleports already. Chemoplague out to Forgiven and Gosu. Soaz is trying to run a target down. Glitter Lance will connect on both. Chemoplague has now popped, and tides of blood splatting across Forgiven's face. He's still got the flash available, holding on to it. Sanguine Pool's out. Sanguine Pool is not going to be enough. The Prey Seeker does though. Amazing finds the kill. Mithy is looking for the pulverize. There's the flash away and an uncharacteristic miss. Niels rends Diamond for a kill. Tower may fall shortly as well. In reply, Gambit get one of their own. But net gain to Origen.
Yeah, bot lane tower should go down as well. Action everywhere at the moment. Gambit sent 2 guys top to take the tower. It meant they were missing members on the bottom side, and Origen knew that. Walk all the way down. 4 guys. Gets the kill onto Forgiven. The Diamond goes down in the mid lane. He was holding it on his own. And suddenly Origen responding. The mid game is on for both teams. Now 3 towers to 2 for Origen wants to take this one down.
So, gonna have themselves a small gold lead. You can see Morella Nomicon was completed there for Betsy. FLICKR sitting on a lot of gold. 2,600. He'll most likely finish off that Wota, Blade of the Ruined King, and the recurve bow for Niels. Get his hands onto the Hurricane. Strong pickups here across the board. And Cinder Hulk for Amazing versus that Magus for Diamond Prox. If Diamond ever gets caught out, he's in trouble. Fans obviously siding with Origen, number 3 team here in Europe.
And I want to see how the team fights here are going to play out, because one of the reasons for this Blade build as well for Niels is the fact that Cabochard is the only member who can really 100% dive onto him. Betsy is going to try, like dash in towards him, but it's going to be difficult through Lulu, Alistar and so on for himself unless he gets a good flank. But Niels is basically saying, I know Cabochard is going to be the guy every single time there, so I need something that can keep him away from me. Slow him down, speed myself up against the Hecarim is always super effective. Goes to Pepper here. Might be caught out.
Oh, he has been indeed. The knockup comes up and Niels lands the killing blow. Now Diamond, he gets headbutted back as Mithy has found him, and FLICKR transfuses a kill. Gambit, they were way out of the position in that situation.
We keep seeing Soaz roam around the map on this Lulu. He's been ganking bot lane, he's been pushing mid lane as well. And every time he's part of something, it's super effective for Origen. Him going to mid lane after pushing top almost gave them a mid tower, opened up for Niels to take it after. Then he walks down bottom lane, they secure a kill on a bot tower. Now he's around the mid lane where Cabochard is pushing top. It is really well played from Soaz how he's moving around on Lulu. And he's always trying to go back and catch the wave once it hits the tower, and then push it back up with the Lulu, and then he roams away again.
We're keeping our eyes on Amazing for the moment. This is actually the first time he's played Rek'Sai this split. Doing a fantastic job of it. He's been prioritizing that Gragas 4 games. Then Evelyn Sejuani Nunu. He seems to be in the right place at the right time, and for, honestly, for all of Origen, he just seems to be making the right decisions. Now, I did say in picks and bans, and I felt the Nidalee was questionable. Amazing even stole away the Gromp, I think that was. And it's 1 and 3 for Diamond. He's playing very aggressive. We'll see whether or not this poke, when combined with Corki, can help out.
Yeah, because Origen has done a good job getting down these outer turrets and try and trade them and let gank. Gambit, they're out of position. Oh, FLICKR is taking a lot of damage.
He has indeed. Sanguine Pool's available, as is that Hemo Plague.
And he just runs away.
Betsy held onto Spirit Rush. He wasn't going to go all in.
He'll go back in now that Diamond is joining.
So let's find out. Here comes Diamond. Javelin toss. Holds onto the trigger. Doesn't connect. Hemo Plague at the max range. FLICKR actually flashed forward for this one and ghosted.
Okay.
And does a lot of damage to Diamond, but it's not going to be enough for anything further. And it looks like Gambit should secure that tower.
And look what Gambit has done on the map here. Every single lane has been pushed in. Betsy waiting in that bush was super smart move to get control of the minions. Diamond moving down as well. And Origen has no outer turrets to trade for at the moment. You have to move further in towards the enemy tier 2 tower. So Gambit is still using the fact they have these strong lanes. And we talked in Champs League about how you can put Forgiven in the mid lane and you turn it into a 1-3-1 setup with Betsy in the bot lane, Capshot in the opposite lane. That's exactly what Gambit just did here. It also opened up for Ghost of Pepper to start roaming and worked out well to give Gambit a bot lane tower.
The problem is, Gambit have this sort of mid-game centric team composition that's down as we're in the mid-game. 2,000 gold down, despite being even on gold. They're down in kills, they're down a dragon. Looks like Origen may want to set up some position, but let's also be honest, Cabochard now has that Trinity Force and Home Guards, his teleport available. If Origen starts a dragon in the incorrect way, that's how Cabochard can break back into this game.
This really is a strong point for Gambit and where they have to be able to take a fight and win it. It's something that they failed to do against Unicorns of Love last week. They gave away so much of the early objectives. They never really got to fight, and then slowly but surely they just lost the game. Here they've been more active in the early game, but it's still Origen in control so far.
So Gambit do not contest Dragon number 2. They do have some positional space in the middle lane, but I think there's going to be enough wave clear and defensive posturing from Origen. So Gambit unable to gain anything despite giving up that dragon. Cabochard just going to head himself back up to top lane. There's even on CSSOs. Yes, there was resources to keep him down, but if you're a power pony and it's not in the right position, it doesn't matter.
But this is now the time for Gambit then to reset the whole map and say, okay, there's no dragon. We don't care about that. We need to play around our side lanes, the Ahri and the Hecarim, while Forgiven is just on wave to do. That's how we can win the game. That's how we can snowball. Both of them back in their lanes pushing in. Origen has to stop pushing down. Every single lane is going to be pushed down. Wow. And Gambit can keep getting pressure. And what they then need to do is, if they can't hit the tower themselves, they need to start roaming between the lanes, because you have such a short route from the top lane to mid lane if you already push down to tier 2 tower, and use that to dive on Origen. Create some kills. You have double Trinity Force. Your Ahri is insanely fed, honestly, in the mid lane. Insanely fed. Pretty
well
fed.
farmed. Let's say well farmed.
Pretty good farm, yeah.
Against a 2-0-1 Vladimir, I think that gold will even out if we compare the direct numbers. But, you know, despite the fact Gambit had given up those dragons, it's only dragon number 2. I'm trying to make it sound like all doom and gloom. It's actually not that bad yet. But if Gambit, I think, don't find an opportunity in the next 10 minutes, that's when things start to get very scary.
Yeah, now we also need to start seeing how Gambit places these wards here. We mentioned how Eddie, Ghost of Pepper and Diamond, they place so many wards. Gambit is the team with the most every single game, or on average at least. Right now it's very spread out. All over the map there are some defensive wards in your own jungle. There are very few wards in the jungle of Origen. And that stops you from playing aggressive when you push down to tier 2 towers, because you suddenly don't have the vision. You see, can I roam between the lanes, or do I risk face checking? And you're forced to sit in your lane. But because Origen is running with so little wave clear, every time Gambit is there, they can keep pushing it down, and they have to use it now. I need to see Ghost of Pepper and Diamond invest into heavy deep warding of the enemy jungle and start applying pressure on either the Baron or just on the towers through simply roaming between and diving them.
The amount of wards that Gambit just placed on the top half of the jungle, putting some pressure on that Baron objective, could be a way to force Origen's hand. But Origen have been so much better at Baron play.
Yeah, and then you got to swap your side lanes around. Cabochard needs to go to the bottom lane then with the teleport if you want to start playing around the Baron for themselves. But they're more or less setting up for Cabochard to push his lane and then freely move into this jungle here. Let's see if Gambit can do it. Because as we've mentioned a few times already, the further we get into the game, the better it is for Origen. And when we start getting these big 5-on-5 team fights, it becomes difficult for Gambit unless they create a pick just in the start of the fight or get a beautiful flank from someone like Caprishot.
So both of these teams average around the 26-27 minute mark for those first Barons. Origen, however, for the 9 Barons that they've secured, they've only conceded 3. So again, it is a testament to the fact that the team was 6-2 coming into the week. It helps in that regard. But it's Gambit that have control, and Cabo's not gone bottom yet. They're leaving Betsy there to fish out.
Yeah, we need to see Goes a Paper upgrade his trinket as well. You're gonna need it if you keep playing around this vision near the Baron itself. Finds the one ward.
Betsy's gonna be in trouble. I think there's a ghost.
Pops.
Here comes Soaz as well. Betsy's gonna get turned into a munchkin.
But now Origen has to worry about the Baron. Nils was back in base when this play happened, and look what Gambit is doing instantly. Rushing it, only 2 guys are around it. TP from Source is ready. He has to use it if they want to stop it.
And he is. Amazing's coming in with the help of Mithy. The knockup is onto Ghost. Ghost is trying to run away. Baron has been stopped. Now Caboshot going to hold on to that onslaught of shadows. Where does he throw it? Still keeping the trigger. There's no Hemo Plague from FLICKR, nor is there a Ghost. Mithy
Beautiful.
goes in for a 2-man pulverize. Ghost who Peppers on the backline trying to run away. FLICKR's come in. Sanguine Blade. Amazing is returned from the flank. Diamond gets cut down where he stands. Origen get 4 kills after killing Betsy bottom and secure the Baron for themselves.
Everything was planned there from Origen, from getting that kill to saying we know we can stop it. Mithy goes in, pops the ulti on that Alistar and just dances around the members. You have Kalista now for the rend as well, so Baron for Origen. They won the mid game. We talked about how it could be difficult because the mids are going down, but some beautiful moves around the map, especially from the likes of Soaz. And now here, well, Gambit, you're tanking the Baron, you're still fairly early in the game. Mithy's not going to go down with his ulti, and now the rest of Origen joins.
So fantastic.
Yeah, nothing you can do at this point here.
And look, there was the teleport wild growth giant Alistar we talked about 15 minutes ago to Fishio.
But it didn't hit anyone.
I think it did, but it doesn't matter. It's the fact that there's a cowboy Alistar that size on the map. That's what matters.
I'm going to go back and rewatch.
Okay, you can rewatch and we'll see whether it did. Either way, Origen 9 kills to 1 now. 5,000 gold up. 2 dragons up. They've got Baron as well. And they've got the late game scaling on the condition their threats stay alive. I think as long as Vladimir or that Kalista are alive,
didn't hit anyone.
That's what matters.
That is what matters. I agree 100%. Origen, they're just going in for another dive.
So, Diamond's down.
You're falling behind now. Alistar is in his prime position where he can just instantly engage onto you. He doesn't care about your towers. They're going to push straight in for inhibitor. Betsy though trying to respond himself. Now he's very far away, and Origen pushing a lot faster than he is.
So, inhibitor turret will get secured. Mithy gets lobbed in by Fate's Call. Pulverize is going to catch Caboshot out, and he's dropped. He tried to onslaught away, but does nothing. He's feared into oblivion. The inhibitor will drop this Baron-empowered minions. Being pushed down on that bottom lane. Origen, they're not letting up. They're onto the Nexus turret, so they're challenging the wave clear. Nexus turret number 1 is down. Origen now going to slowly back away, as I think Betsy has been out of sight for just long enough to create doubt in Origen's mind. And Gambit may be waving the flag of surrender unless they can pull off a miracle. Down all across the map, and supers to deal with as well.
Yeah, we need to see some great outplays from Gambit if they want to pull their way back into this game here. It's still going to be around these individual performances, like Betsy trying to get a kill one-on-one against maybe FLICKR, but it's so difficult now against this Vladimir the later we get into the game as well. And, I mean, we've already hit the late game, obviously, in Origen in full control.
And we're going to highlight as well, Caboshot opted into this Hecarim. It was the last pick. He's not done anything. He's farmed and he's pushed lanes.
The focus was on him though, from Origen in the start of the game with the lane swap.
Look at all the warding they had around Baron. This is Gambit I'm talking about. They've not found an opportunity for Caboshot to TP in and get an onslaught onto Origen.
That's why I feel like this is a team effort from Gambit that's failing for them. Yeah. They haven't been able to use the 3 pushing lanes to create any tower dives, to create any picks. We haven't really seen a very good use of your deep wards. There was the one time around the Baron itself but it seemed like Origen were in control there. They were like, yeah, we're just going to go gank your bot lane because you have no TP there. Well, you are an Ari pushing on your own, I mean, and we know we can go stop the Baron. And that was where it was really the last chance for Gambit to use the mid-game spike for themselves.
Mithy reading the situation. Unbreakable Will comes out and fires the pulverizer tad early. We did see that Gosu Pepper, rather Forgiven and Betsy going to be able to get away. As it stands, Gambit just a little bit out of sorts, trying to find a way back into this game.
Yeah, you're trying to hope for that. I mean, you know you can't really start split pushing again, because Origen can just group up and like pop Talisman and force a fight and then maybe end the game. So you're trying to hope for that one last fantastic team fight that's gonna turn the game around for you. Where can Gambit pull it off though? Top lane tower is the last outer turret for Origen here. You can see both Diamond and Gosu Pepper trying to ward up their own jungle to maybe hide in there. See if they can create a trap for Origen. But you need Capo Shot and Betsy to just destroy Niels in the start of a fight. Remove a lot of the damage. Problem is obviously also their Vladimir is going to be super annoying at this point.
So we'll find out whether or not FLICKR can control the rest of the game. He's 4-0 and 3. Nearly 300 CS.
Yeah, now Origen obviously up in the top lane pushing in. We mentioned here how now Gambit might have the chance. They're going in.
So we'll find out. Gosu Pepper is down. We do see there's Mithy with the headbutt pulverized combo. Betsy spur rushing away with FLICKR out. Can Niels clean up? And the simple answer is yes. He's got himself a double kill as they turn their attention onto Cabo Shot. The onslaught of shadows is there just to keep Cabo Shot alive. The exhaust will hold him in place as Niels will get himself a triple. Origen will get their 8th tower and they set their sights on the inhibitor.
Gambit had to try this point here. They were waiting, trying to see if they can get the jump. They got FLICKR down, but that's about it. Origen still so far ahead of Gambit in this game here, and they're looking to finish everything.
Look how short those death timers are. 10 seconds left before Forgiven is up. Origen going to play this one a little bit safe and secure another inhibitor turret. Gambit moving their way up. Tower not going to go down just yet. Minions are pouring in. With Baron up in a minute, Origen are going to have the pick of the litter for objectives to close this one out, and they get their 10th tower down. League of Legends by the numbers. Every single thing that stands between Origen and the Nexus has been taken. Well, Amazing might be in a little bit of trouble. Diamond is going to pounce forward. Amazing's going to interrupt with the knock-up. Look at Soez's position. I don't know if he's going to be able to catch up. Amazing's going to tunnel through the wall. And we're going on the great chase. Betsy's even spur rushing for this one. An Amazing with an incredible escape.
Gets out alive here. Gambit, if they had killed him, could maybe have gone over for a Baron. Try for that one, but for now Origen is just going to wait it out. Now you have so many options. I mean, do you want to take a Baron? Do you just want to go straight in?
And this is what Origen did last week as well, when they have a very strong lead. They play the safe close.
They did.
Get the objectives, get the aspect of the Dragon and the Baron, and then look to finish the game out. And that's the smart call, especially when you've got such a fed Vladimir and Kalista. Force Gambit to come to you with their 10,000 gold deficit. Just pop them with the fight.
Lead around. Trip. Don't want to risk a potential smite steal, even though you have the Kalista Man, and here's the fight.
Well, Gosu gets caught up by Fate's Call, and he's down. Niels goes legendary with that rend. 5 versus 4, it's not done yet. Mithy used Righteous and the Coin to engage, and Amazing is just zoning them away. Look at those rend stacks climbing up, 15, 16. Diamond's going to need a miracle smite steal to make this work. He's going to throw it on Unbreakable Will. Up to 30 stacks. We see Diamond is down. Amazing gets the kill, and Baron, number 2, secured by Origen. Officio, to go back to our pre-game discussion, Origen clearly the 3rd best team. Gambit have a lot to prove if they want to break into the top 3.
Focus for them at the moment is clearly just still on improving as much as possible every week. We have to remember Gambit started 0-4. Week 1 and week 2 where they couldn't practice properly. Then they got a lot better. week 3. But there's still a gap in Europe up to these top 3 teams. That goes for everyone, not just Gambit. We've seen when Unicorns play the likes of Origen, when they play HK and so on. There's also this gap here, so it's clearly just the top 3, and then everyone else fighting to make these playoffs here. 4, 5, and 6, of course. Origen gonna get down this inhibitor, and let's see if they want to go for another one.
Well, it does look like they want the fight. Diamond Prox has got caught out a little bit. There's no unbreakable will for Miffy as we see transfusions being thrown out from FLICKR. Chemo Plague is on cooldown, but there's only one Nexus turret to get through. And there's still an inhibitor standing. I retract the statement. There is no inhibitor standing. Niels is hammering away with that Bloodthirster shield and the shield from Lulu. Pecky holds on to his Sanguine Blade. Wild Growth comes out to keep Niels alive. Diamond hops in, and he just gets dropped. Onslaught of Shadows is there to kill Miffy, but that's not going to be enough. So as Niels, all of Origen moving forward. They want to go for the Fountain Dive, going to prevent it this time round. Nexus is the focus, and at 35 minutes, Origen clearly hold on to third.
Definitely had a plan from the start to how to play against Gambit here. We saw a very clear focus on Capuchat in the early game. The lane stop at first denied a lot of farm in that case here. Then they kept Niels in the top lane to try and deny Capuchat even more, force him to go to the bottom lane. Suddenly Amazing showed up. A lot of focus there on shutting him down. Also the pick and ban phase. And once again, we see Gambit give up so many power picks to the other team. Alistar, Kalista, Rek'Sai for Origen here. And I thought it looked a little bit difficult for them in the mid game when the mid tower went down, because Betsy won that lane against Pekka. I was like, well, this might open it up for Gambit now to really start roaming around. But then suddenly Soas on his Lulu is just everywhere. Push out his lane, then suddenly he's ganking bot lane, and that gave so many kills to Origen and made them able to respond in the mid game and even out the gold.
And just to highlight something really quickly, Capuchat's Hecarim dealt 5,700 damage to champions that game. 5-7. Miffy's Alistar dealt 5,100 damage to champions that game. Miffy on Alistar was way in the front. And this is what I want to go back to and talk about, is how Gambit as a team, they had vision, they had control points, they were pushing lanes, but they didn't find a way to use the resource that was Capuchat.
I feel like they did 80% of that correct, but they were missing the last 20%. The wards were not in the 100% right place, the lanes were not pushed at the same time, and that's what basically stopped them from ever really pushing that advantage.
Yeah.
And also just again, Origen managed to respond so well, and they were ahead in gold from like 15 minutes.
It wasn't massive though.
It was obviously
Close.
a small lead,
Yeah.
but it was enough with a scaling comp. It obviously means a lot more when you are just even in the mid game. And that's where it just became so hard for Gambit to create anything.
How do we evaluate Gambit's strength then? Because we said against Origen, against H2K, against Fnatic, this is where we show the true colors, right? The real challenges. If Gambit are about 80% of the way there, how much do they need to change? We'll have to get back to that question a little later, because we're going to head to Pulse on stage for a word with Origen's Amazing.
Don't lie to me. Thank you very much, Trevor. I'm Pulse. I am joined, of course, by the jungler of Origen. It is amazing out here. Now, that win was pretty clean cut when it got down to it, but I want to go a little into the past with Champion Select. Did you guys get everything that you wanted? Because then Diamond, he didn't pick the meta jungler, he went for the Nidalee, and then we also had the Taro pickup as well. You guys focused out Capuchat.
We actually didn't get what we wanted, but it was an alteration of our comp that we wanted to play, so it was fine for us to pick the Vladimir again, to pick like the Rek'Sai we played in the Challenge Series finals already instead of the Gragas. So we're completely fine with the picks that were coming in for us. I was kind of caught off guard that he actually prioritized in Italy as a blind pick, which I think is not that good, because like Gragas Rek'Sai just beat everyone in team comp wise and in skirmishes usually. So. But overall, we're kind of fine with what we had.
Yeah, it definitely seems to work out for sure in game. I kind of want to get your thoughts on the Taric though, because this is the second time we've now seen it. Yeah, and it had an interesting result. Do you think it's worth it in the current meta, because we're seeing so many lane swaps, which you did in game as well? Is it worth picking the Taric?
I don't think so. Like, simply because Taric is so one-dimensional and that's something you can't trespass. Like, well, it doesn't even matter which comp you play. It doesn't matter how you play. Like, Taric is too one-dimensional to be a competitive pick right now, and that's just how it is.
All right, so I want to ask one more question here. Last week when you guys faced Fnatic, you argued with your team saying that we could have beaten them. What do you think that you need to change to challenge the top three coming into the rest of the split?
practice harder, practice better, and just execute.
Well, there you have it. Thank you very much. Amazing. Feel free to rejoin your team, and congratulations once on that win. So we're going to shoot it over to the LSS to break down the rest of that game.
Thank you so much, Pulse. Yeah, that Herr Stuckenschneider, practice harder, practice better, and
get executed in the jungle.
And get executed in the jungle. Probably not. No, but it is quite interesting because we keep talking about, or you keep talking about what are the things that a top team needs. For them, it seems to be still quite focused on just practicing and getting better at the basics. They are, after all, a first split in the LCS team.
Yeah, and if we see at what's working for them, oh, we hear the crowd go nuts over, I presume, Fnatic getting on stage. What's working for OG here is the draft, and what's not working for Gambit, in my opinion, is the draft, because on first rotation they picked Corki Nidalee when Kalista was open, because OG just simply picked Alistar first rotation and said, well, we don't care, you're not going to pick Kalista, Forgiven doesn't play that champion, so they got Alistar, Kalista, and a tier 1 jungler, while Gambit opted for the blind Nidalee, and it's just, you dig yourself in such a deep hole, and then you need to outplay to get out of it.
Yeah, well, it has worked for Gambit in the past, sometimes changing the meta, especially from that jungle out. So what factors do have to work? Do you need to have a base of meta champions and then you can have a new pick in there or a different pick? Or do you just, in the case of Gambit, knowing that you're still working on your team, need to go all standard?
That's about as many questions as Gambit need to fix in play right now when it comes to their picks and bans. It's interesting. Pulse talked to Amazing there about the Taric. The Nidalee is a little bit of an odd, well, not an oddball. It's still good, but as you said, Rek'Sai was available. Just Gambit's pick and ban just didn't really sit well. I can see what they were trying to do with the first 2 picks, but then to try and pull that off is so difficult when you're letting so many tier 1 picks go away.
The reason you can play meta champion is because there's so many examples of how to play them. If you go off the grid, then you need to play differently, and you see that there's a bit of shot calling issues on the side of Gambit, and that's exemplified in our first replay. If we can get that on your screen right now, we see a repeat of what Giants did last week against H2K. They grouped up in the top lane and they tried to sneak under that tower, but yet again they did the same thing. So on the top lane we know what happened. They're going to aggro on Pepper and they're going to force him off and they're going to deny the creeps. So this is so bad for Gambit. However, they have one saving grace. I think Soaz should have teleported here, and that's why I wanted to see that replay, because we've seen it. Forgiven, that's two and a half waves. That's like 16 creeps almost that he denies to that tower that Soaz could have picked up. Imagine if Soaz teleported down to the bot lane. Gambit would have just straight up lost the game. Right there. Game over. No comeback possible, because with Cabochard down, Gambit seems to struggle, and that would have put Soaz roughly in a full level XP advantage, in addition to what he had already gained. So he'd be the 1.5 levels plus the lane control ahead against Cabochard. That would have been straight up game over.
Yeah, that would have been game over. It took some 10 minutes more. OG got rolling. Xpeke got his first kill before 10 minutes, which was the first time in the split. And once OG is snowballing, there is almost nothing that can stop them, which has been their strength.
And it really didn't help Gambit that they were so low on kills for the majority of that game. I mean, there was a point where the game was 17 kills to 2. Gambit just could never really get anything. They got a dive onto Amazing in the mid lane, but nothing really much more than that.
Quite unlucky for them. Very, very convincing from OG. And it's almost time for us for our game of the week, as Fnatic looks to match their LCS win streak record against H2K. And before we go, earlier we asked, what do you think makes a top tier team and why? And Schleia actually tweeted, hello Tony, good atmosphere, good organization, and good draft makes a top tier team so players can focus solely on the game. Yeah, draft is something we touched on already, and definitely not lying.
I definitely agree with the atmosphere. If you see all these teams, they have a lot of camaraderie in there, and I think Tony, our beau gosse, as we say in French, is absolutely right on the money there. In addition to what we mentioned earlier, you need all those factors, and then you need to have it consistently as well, and I think that's showing, especially in H2K and in Fnatic, and mostly to an extent Origen as well.
Yeah, and in H2K, there's actually a cool article over on lolesports.com about the bromance between Hjarnan and Cussing, so go check that out, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with Fnatic versus H2K.
How sorry will you be right now, huh?
Yeah, what you do?
And oh, look at this, dude!
Oh my god, amazing. Can you put the volume of Amazing lower? Actually, can you just mute him?
Holding on to it, Sanguine pulls out. Sanguine pool is not going to be enough. The Prey Seeker does though. Amazing finds the kill.
Go. I'm behind him. I can flank. Fuck him. Ult me. No, don't. Ult me now. Okay, go now. No smite.
The headbutt pulverized combo. Betsy spur rushing away with Xpeke out. Can Niels clean up? And the simple answer is yes. Origen clearly hold on to third.